Hey everyone, and welcome to the Infinite Respawn podcast. I'm Chicken.
I'm Oak Tree.
I'm Grif.
I'm Baka.
So
What up?
how's it going?
It's going.
Good. You know,
Going.
morning
What games
time.
have already been playing?
Stuffing things. I'm going to make a game called Stuffing Things, and then one night I'm going to play it for a whole week straight so that I can just say that in a non-sarcastic way.
Okay.
Well,
Anyway.
technically, if you're creating the
Like-
game, you're playing stuff and things the entire time you're doing it. So,
Ooh.
But
I'm making
do
stuff
you
and
like
things.
take stuff and cram it into Build-A-Bears?
No, they're just things. You're just stuffing things.
Build-A-Bear is a thing.
I don't know how to take that. I'm going to move on from that conversation. I'll go first. I played a little bit of Kakarot this week. Didn't get a whole lot done because it was one of those points in the game where you have to kind of do the in-between stuff while you're waiting to get to the next section, if you will. So it's kind of the busy work to get onto the next section of the game. Also played Stranded Deep, like we do every Sunday, with No Pants, and it's going pretty well. We're building a second raft right now, in order to be able to both of us kind of move around the islands on our own. The only problem with the game right now is I'm the only person that can save the game. So if he dies, I can't go revive him if we're on two different islands. So I've got to tell him ahead of time, hey, before you do something stupid, please make sure that I save if we're going to do it. But we found out something interesting too, because if you go to a separate island and one person's on the other island, you can see fire on both islands. Like if you've got a fire lit on both islands, you can see the other person's, that's the island that they're on. But the minute you leave that island, the fire goes out, even though it's still lit. When you leave, for some reason, you can't see it anymore. And I was like, well, that kind of sucks, because I had an idea of, instead of putting boxes out and putting labels on them, to put, because there's lanterns, and there's just about everywhere you go, you'll find the lanterns, and they're solar powered. Just leave them on. And then that way you have an idea of which island you're headed to, but you can't see the lanterns once somebody leaves that island. So it failed completely. So I was like, okay, never mind. We can't do that. So we're going to have to figure out what to do on that one. We're supposed to be figuring that out tonight, as well as organizing all of our boxes tonight. That's going to be fun too, which is take everything out of the boxes and put everything back into the boxes that we've got to do. So that's on our raft, and then create more shelves for the new raft. And yeah, there you have it. And then played some Sea of Thieves, a lot of Sea of Thieves this week, because this week they introduced, they're rewarding fishing is the best way I can put this. And the way that they're doing it is you basically have two things that you can do for the fishing. The first one is you can get 120 of any fish. So, and that lasts for 1 week. So you go in and you turn in as many fish as you want. They don't have to be cooked. Just turn in as many fish as you possibly can. So some people are sinking their boats, sitting at one of the sea posts and just sitting there and fishing the entire time and just turning them in. That gets you 250 doubloons, if you do that. Then the other thing that lasts for 2 weeks, which I think we've got about 8 more days of, by the time this airs, is to get just the ruby splash tails, which are the most basic fish out of the entire thing, right? Is you have to get 180 of those. So every splash tail that you get does count towards the 120, but it takes you a little while to get the other. I'm at 108, I think, right now, out of 180. So there are people just going around and fishing as much as they possibly can to put this in. But when you get that one, you get a figurehead that everybody's looking for, is a gold hoarder figurehead that everybody's wanting, which is weird because, and I don't think anybody else picked up on this, is like, why are we getting a gold hoarder figurehead for fishing? Shouldn't there be a hunter one of some sort? Like, like it's an entire different section, but okay, cool.
Well, you're still hoarding a bunch of fish.
Right?
Yeah.
And then next week, instead of doing the all fish, it's trophy fish only, and I think it's going to be 60 of those that you have to get, and then that'll get you the 250 doubloons. So it's going to be very interesting to see how they can start implementing these little weekly quests, or whatever you want to call them, challenges. and how many people start participating in them. And we had this weekend was double gold, double XP weekend as well. So there was a lot of sweatiness on the seas as well. So it is.
Well, I mean, it is hot out in the seas, right?
It is hot on the seas, but it's, oh my God, like the battles are so sweaty, and for some reason I don't understand what it is about the Kraken, but it can find us no matter what's happening. It doesn't matter who else. You could have 6 ships together within one little area, and it's gonna hit our ship every fucking time. I don't get it why it hits our ship every time. But
sweaty Kraken.
But we had a good time the other night. We ended up getting 300,000 in about 4 hours. And it's just one ship. We didn't end up doing alliance, what they call alliance servers, which alliance servers, there's a servers that'll run. You get invited into the alliance servers. Everybody is running an alliance on the entire server. And they keep those servers open. So people are just inviting people in and out or whatever. I don't know how you get invited to one, but I've got friends that do. We call it easy mode. That's what I call it. Because I get it, but you come back with, okay, well, I've got 2 million gold that I've gotten. Well, you know why you've got 2 million gold? Because nobody's fighting you, and they're like, well, there's sometimes that people will, get out of the alliance and turn all their shit in and turn on everybody else. And I was like, yeah, but how often does that happen? Like,
and then it's like one ship, not like half the people out there to get you.
Yeah. So it's like, come on, so I think that's where, people are just figuring out ways to get more and more gold, and for XP, they can, if somebody's wanting to start right now and become a pirate legend, if they put them into a one like that, you're looking within 2 weeks to be able to be a pirate legend.
Damn.
Like, yeah. So it's like, it doesn't take them long to level up. And I'm just like, I don't like playing that way. Like, I would do it just to get the money, but I wouldn't do it to get the XP. Like, I would much rather just go in and get the gold as much as I could, but
I guess if there's an easy way to do it, people.
Well, and right now, if you run an Athena's chest can now be turned in, at least this weekend, can be turned in at Reaper's Hideout, and if you turn it in, it's worth 4 times the amount. So, yeah, so you'll end up with basically 40,000 gold every time you turn one of those in. Whatever the fire chests are, whatever the chest of rage. If you turn the chest of rage in, it's the same type of thing. You can turn those in. Instead of being double, they're quadruple in price. So it's and it's because those are already double in price when you turn them in there. They're just it's double that amount. So a lot of people, that's how they're getting the money. But it's going to be very interesting to see as they progress through the game. They've got new stuff that they're adding in. They're going to be adding in not next week, but the week after. They're going to be adding in chain shots. So the way the chain shot works is, of course, it's, if those that don't know, it's half a cannonball on both sides with a chain that's in between. You load those up and you shoot them at the other people's mast. They'll knock the mast down. Is the idea behind it, to stop those people, which will be very interesting to see, especially in the PvP arena, how they add that into the game. So it's going to be quite nice. I think for those people that do PvP, and I think it's going to be quite nice for those people that decide to try to fuck you over and take your shit, and you can slow them down real quick and annihilate them. But I wouldn't want to be a sloop right now. There's no way I'd want to be a sloop right now. Solo sloop. Because people are so just, I don't know. They're just trying to take over the entire seas, and it's going to be quite interesting to see how the game continues to grow. Anyway, that's what I got.
Nice. I played some Ark and lost some dinosaurs and got some salty because according to Chicken, I'm bad at everything. So.
Don't throw those devils on me. Don't throw those devils on me.
Every time I would kill him. Like, I went to Carno Island and was like, the first time I had a tech T-Rex, one of the fluffy bird things, and a saber tooth. And I was, just walking around the island because I've never been there, so I was looking at stuff, but I had found them, and so I tamed them. And they were walking behind me, and out of, like, some trees, a level 4 Carnotaur came out. So, because I had already walked past it, and attacked them. the 3 of them. You know, one of which is a giant T-Rex that's like level 13. My bird was like level 24, and then the saber was like level 10. It destroyed them all before I could kill it. It was level 4. I mean, and they were fighting it. It's not like they were just standing there on passive, like we don't do anything because nobody told us to. It was like, I just want to die today. Screw you and the effort that you put into this. So, and then I was coming back the next time with, I had a pair of raptors and, see, I had a pair of raptors and a saber and something else that I had tamed, and they got destroyed by a couple of sabers, and I was like, okay, let me double check, because I'm playing by myself, so I would double check to make sure that my friendly fire was off, so that I wasn't killing them on accident. No, that wasn't the case. I was already off, so I was like, okay. So I left the island with a T-Rex, 2 more raptors, and another saber, and tamed a Gallimimus on the way. And I was almost freaking home, and I was like, okay, I'm just gonna go across this water right here. It's not that bad. No, like, literally out of the depths came the jellyfish and started shocking all of the dinosaurs, while 2 Megs that were mated came up and ate them. I'm like, I hate everything. This is like hours that was just a freaking wash. I hate everything so much. I'm like, why even bother getting carnivorous, scary dinosaurs if all they can do is, well, guess I'll just die now. I mean, at least with the water ones, they were being shocked.
Island, since it's your island, just build bridges. Just build giant bridges across everything. You don't have to worry about anybody destroying anything. You claim the whole thing and just build a bridge over every piece of water there is in the island. Just build a giant bridge.
Just have my super highway.
Exactly. Hey, it's your island. You could just build a highway across the whole map. Then make a motorcycle, download a motorcycle mod, and just drive across.
Why would I need a motorcycle mod if we have the fast deer things?
Oh yeah, I guess that's true. Just get on your fast motorcycle deer and fly across the maps on your wooden highways.
I was very salty. So now I'm looking for a Quetzal so that I can tame that giant bird and then put a giant platform on his back and take him wherever I want, load up all my dinosaurs, and fly him up in the air, because screw you. But I can't find one. Like, when they say these birds are rare, they mean it, which makes me extra salty, because Chicken's like, well, when we were playing, they were everywhere.
We were.
Yeah, they were up in the north.
I have
we
been
can go into the
everywhere.
north and just see them all over the place.
Yeah, they're not plentiful. I have not seen one. Not one. So
They may have changed the spawn rate, since everyone was basically taming them and making them mobile bases.
Well, apparently now when they say they're rare, they friggin' mean it. Like, there's just none. I also haven't seen a Giga, which used to also be regularly seen.
Those ones were uncommon, but you
They
would
were
definitely
uncommon,
see
but I
them
remember
roaming.
seeing them when we were playing back in the day, and I haven't seen one.
The thing that always amazed me about the Giga is like, you would see T-Rex and all that stuff, and you go, okay, cool. And you see a Giga, you go, oh my god.
Like, all right, that thing is kind of big.
It's like frame rate drops to like 2. It's like, because that game was not optimized at all. Oh, it's crazy. Here's the thing though. I've got a complaint to the makers of Ark that Grif and I were talking about the other day, which is she's playing the game and 15 gigs had to be downloaded onto this for the new expansion that she's not fucking playing.
Yeah, I mean, basically whenever they release content for Ark, what they do is they're like, here's the content, you have to download this update in order to play your game, even though I'm playing in single player, which means I shouldn't have to connect to the online or anything. But you have to download this update, and what this update is not that they've added new dinosaurs or things into your current game or hot fixes. It's that they're forcing you to download the new content they're releasing, but it's behind a paywall, so you can't even get to it. It's like, what? Don't make me download that unless I'm buying it. Stop filling up my hard drive with junk that I'm not using.
And if they haven't changed their format, the way it used to be, which is why it pisses me off that they did this. The way it used to be is every single world that they created, expansion they created, is behind a different server. So It's not even like you're on the same fucking server doing this shit, so it doesn't make any sense for you to even have to download that part of it. Like, it makes no sense whatsoever.
Yeah.
Like, I don't get it.
I don't know.
I don't get it at all. Please stop, Ark. Just stop.
It's like the devs of this game had a good idea, but they really don't understand how to implement hardly anything. They don't understand how any of it should work. So they're just kind of like throwing things out at whatever rate. And I guess maybe the idea is that when you see an update like that, you're like, oh, well, I guess I'm already downloading the content. I'll just buy it. But I don't know how many people are impulse buyers like that. Like that kind of impulse. You're already making me download it. I guess I'll just give you the money for it. Shut up. Like, no, that's not how sales work. Not generally. I don't know.
And then I haven't looked at the price on it. I know it's on sale. That like Ark, it's in general is on sale this weekend. But I don't know how their expansions price wise are. But they used to be like $30 just for the expansion part of it.
They're probably still $30.
See if I can tell you. Let's see. These are passes though. Ark Genesis Season Pass is $35. What's in the pass? What is this? Ark Extinction Season Pass, Aberration Season Pass. So the Season Passes are $20, and I guess that's where the content is. Scorched Earth, $20 on sale for $9.99.
Yeah, it's good. Scorched Earth was the first.
So I guess they're
regular
calling
expansion.
the expansion packs and then passes. They've got two different things set up for them. So yeah, the expansion packs have dropped down to $20 instead of $30. But
you can buy the base game right now for $9.99.
Yeah.
Normally it's $39 and something. So spend $9.99 if you're going to play solo mode, because you don't want to play any other thing in that damn game, to be fair, unless you've got a private server.
well, see, and they've got some of the map extensions and things like that for free. Like the center is free, and things like that. Like the Ragnarok map is free. But I don't know. It's just if you want to play the game on as a single player game, sure, absolutely, $10, do it.
Go punch some trees.
I wouldn't spend full price, and I definitely wouldn't want to play it in their multiplayer, especially now because the people that are playing that game have been playing for a very long time, and you will literally have nowhere to play unless you immediately join up with a tribe. Everything's already claimed, so enjoy that single player. So that's what I've been doing.
What you guys got?
Baka, what have you been playing?
Little bit of World of Warcraft, and I downloaded Untitled Goose Game for the Switch.
I need to play that.
I have been kind of a dick for a goose, because I keep untying a kid's shoe and making him trip.
Isn't that the whole idea of that game, is to just be...
There's an actual to-do list of things you have to do through the game. I just keep messing around, though, because I've already done
that is one of them.
I still need to get that. I'm going to get that at some point. Play it, I promise.
Yeah, we will at some point. I'm surprised neither of you two decided to... We raided in WoW, and we fucking finally beat the goddamn boss we were stuck on for 7.5 hours.
I was more
7.5 hours.
That's cumulative. That was not 7.5 hours at one time, by the way.
That's... Okay, whatever. It's the same difference.
Well, I mean,
we
fine.
spent 3 hours one day, 2.5 hours...
7.5 straight hours.
No, we spent the 3 hours one day and 2.5 hours another day. We spent 7.5 hours on this one boss fighting him. And we finally got him.
I was more excited. We finally got Grif's neck.
Yeah.
Yes.
Finally.
That too. After 50 plus runs of the same fucking dungeon, she finally got the piece. She's completely done with everything outside of raids. Like, the only thing she can get now is upgrades from raiding. That's it.
And some enchantments.
Yeah, enchantments. But that's still either, just farming for materials or buying it.
Yeah.
Either should be fine. Oh, we also got for people who play WoW and whatnot, there are purple items, epic items that drop, and sometimes they're BOE, which is bind on equip, so you can sell them, which are really, really, really rare. And we had a super rare one drop in one of the dungeons that we were running, and Red won it.
And it's something that he can't use, so he's going to sell it. Good luck.
Yeah, for like 500 gold, which is a lot of money. So he banked a lot of money on that run. That was also the run that we got the neck to, isn't it?
No.
That was the last. It was.
I thought it was.
Yeah, because I think that was the last run.
Yeah, because we got the shield. I got my axe, the other axe, and Grif got her neck.
Oh,
Yep.
okay.
Yep. It was all in one run. It was so nice to have it all done right away.
Which I have both axes enchanted.
Nice.
Now we don't have to go back to that place for a long time.
So this particular raid that you all finished.
No, we
Well, we
So-
finished one of the bosses in it. We still
One
have,
of the bosses of the
We're
raid?
going
You
back
haven't finished the
tonight.
raid?
we have 4 more bosses. We're only halfway through.
Okay, so when you finish this raid, because remember, not a person that plays this game, so I'm asking
Fair
this
enough.
question for everybody else. When you finish this, is there another raid for the classic to where you have to go back in, or is it one of those things where you're done with classic?
No, there
Oh,
will
no,
be
okay.
another. They have planned releases
Yeah.
for the rest of the content.
So basically, when you finish a raid, it resets every week, and you can go back through and kill all the bosses and keep getting loot for your groups because only
'Cause there's
3 or 4
40 people.
pieces. Yeah, 3 or 4 pieces of loot drop per boss. So you have to try to do that every week to get gear for everybody.
Yeah.
And you want to clear the whole place in one night so that you have as much opportunity to get as much stuff from the bosses in a single night so that when it resets you can do it again. And you
Yeah.
basically just keep doing that. Now we're in phase 3. Phase 4 is going to be introducing a smaller raid, which will be 20 people. We're 40 people right now. The new raid is going to be a catch-up style one where it's for people who haven't been doing this raid and will let you get gear equivalent to this one, but with smaller parties.
It's a catch up because this one is relatively difficult and
Yes,
is a
and it will
struggle.
help you. Getting stuff out of this one will help you drastically push through the one.
So
that
is
we're
there
doing
another
right now.
phase, like when you got phase 4, do you get a phase 5 or?
Yes,
like
phase 5 opens
How many
up,
phases are we looking at? That's, I guess,
6.
6 total.
6 total.
6. Phase 5 is when the serious end game starts because it's called the Encourage War Effort, which both factions have to accumulate in unbelievable amount of materials. Like we're talking 5 million light leathers, 200,000 elemental, or like it's just an enormous amount of materials for both sides. Then once you get all of those, you do a massive server event, which you hit the gong. Both sides race to hit the gong, which opens up the gates of Encourage, which lets everybody into the AQ raids. And there's 2 of them, the 20-man and the 40-man. They're both pretty difficult. And then we'll work our way through there. And in the final phase, which will introduce Naxxramas, which in the original classic, they only did it for a little while. They really fucked up bad because they released it and then had Burning Crusade just a couple months later.
Yeah.
So people
They
didn't
give
get to
people enough
experience it
time
for...
with
So I guess my question is, what happens, like once all this happens, we go through the phase 6 and all this stuff, what do you think Blizzard's plans are for this? I mean, are you looking
2 options.
Okay.
2 options. One, either they evolve the game into Burning Crusade Classic, in which they do the expansion and then we move on to Burning Crusade, or 2, they do a Classic Plus experience.
I've heard
which
that
means
they're throwing on the idea of playtesting Burning Crusade though, so I think that's more likely.
I really think it's gonna well, they might play test it and see how the community wants, because if the community wants Classic and they don't want to move on to Burning Crusade, they don't want to be forced to move on, what are they going to do?
You want to give them an option to be able to do it at that point, right? Because
exactly.
I mean, that's the way I would look at it. Because I'm looking at it from everybody wanted to play Classic. And you're going to have those people that are like, hey, my friends really want me to play Classic. I'm finally available to make that happen. Let me go ahead and play with them, start through, and continue to play through. And then those people that have already beaten through Classic and go, I really want to play Burning Crusade, can go through and have that option
I
available
think the
to them.
downside of that though is then you do start splitting the community even further. So you're gonna have smaller pockets of people playing per expansion.
That's why it's going to be a very delicate choice to make, because you either push your entire community into Burning Crusade and the Classic community is no longer, and the people who like Classic just leave because they don't want to play Burning Crusade. That's not what they signed up for. Classic Plus, in my opinion, would be the safer option because you're keeping the Classic community, but you're adding in stuff that they had plans for originally but never got around to it. So, and you're not evolving. You're not like changing.
They could go
wanted.
through and do like the Burning Crusade, but keep it in Classic mode.
Yeah, that is true too. You could do a best of both worlds.
I don't know if they would though. What, you stay level 60
Yeah.
and do Burning Crusade content? Why bother?
Was there a change of? I know there was a change in the fact that your character could go higher in level, but is there a change in how the gameplay is?
Well, there was
Yes.
two new races that they added, and they tweaked a lot of the classes
absolutely.
and how the abilities worked. So yeah, there was a.
I don't ever want to go to back. Like, I would love to see Wrath of the Lich King, but I don't ever want to go back because I do not ever want to see rep pallies the way they were again. Like, I will never forget the day I loaded into the PTR and a rep pally ran into the Warsong room and literally two-shot me. And I was like, well, okay, this is fucking awful. And then through the whole fucking expansion, they did nothing but two-shot everybody.
Rat Pallies
was
and
awful.
Frost Mages.
Yes,
Wrath
it was
was-
awful.
Yeah, they were strong. So.
Yeah, stupid is the proper word for it.
Burning Crusade, though, they did make Pallies viable for tanks.
Yes, the only thing that they needed in Vanilla was giving them a taunt, and then that's perfectly fine. They're viable tanks, but we're gonna have to see
if
because
they do Classic Plus, I wouldn't be opposed to them giving Pallies a taunt, though.
Yeah, I could be okay with some clash rebalancing if we move out of Classic and
But
go
then
into
you get
Classic
the core
Plus.
Classic community, they're going to scream, that's not Classic, you asked for Classic. Because that's what the argument was before Classic came out, was what are we going to change?
If you haven't been following... If you haven't been following the community, which you haven't, they have changed. The terminology of no changes has turned into some changes. Because they took out the entrance portal into Warsong. You can't leave through the portal anymore.
What do you mean you can't leave through the portal?
Inside Warsong, there were the two portals that you could, go to leave instead of just typing /AFK. They took them out. Because people were mind controlling opposing players and run them out, and then they would AFK them out. Which is away from keyboard. You get kicked out of the battleground.
I actually didn't know there were portals in there to start with, but it's probably also because I didn't do a whole bunch.
They had to change the way AV worked because people were botting and they were pre-mates and things like that. So it's not hashtag no changes, it's hashtag some changes now. It's because problems now are different than what the problems were back then. It's people are a lot smarter and a lot I hate to be a lot more mean and will figure out ways to just be a complete douche or break your game, and you have to adjust. Even if it's just slightly, you have to adjust to fix your game. Because sometimes when bugs come in that were not prevalent back there, it's like the one right now. You can pay the opposing faction to come to Stormwind and kill the guy who you turn into Oni head buff, which resets the timer on the Oni head buff, and you can have it turn in again. That wasn't a problem that was prevalent in Classic, which is a problem now, and they have stated that they're leaving it in for now, but if it becomes a problem, they will remove the ability to do that. Because it was what it was like back then, and it could evolve into a problem, but it's not a problem yet. Okay. So they're watching it. So see, it's these things that just happen to pop up now that weren't even like an idea back then.
Those are things that are like prevention for, people being dicks, basically. But the thing about giving a pally a taunt because it's Classic Plus, well, that changes how that class
it's
plays.
changing the gameplay. Well, that comes to a point is when everybody has had their fill of Classic. Do you want to evolve it?
Fill of Classic, why not just go to Burning Crusade where you have new raid content?
Because you can't come back.
What?
You can't come back. Like, flying ruined the game. In my opinion, flying ruined the game.
No, you can't fly in anywhere but Outlands and Burning Crusade.
It ruined the game. It like Burning Crusade, yeah, you can fly in Burning Crusade, but it ruined the game. Introducing that mechanic destroyed the landscape of the game because you were no longer a horizontal world. You became a vertical world. And then they just continued that on in the Northrend, and they put the main city way up in the sky, and you needed a flying mount to get around. And then they made it cheap and accessible and things like that. Because it was 1,000 gold to get a flying mount.
You couldn't get your flying mount, though, for a while in Lich King. You had to take the flight
to get
the Dalaran.
Yeah, it was 68, I think.
Yeah, so it wasn't like, okay, new continent, here's my flying mount, ready to go. You still had to be on the ground for most of the expansion.
But if you were low level or something on PvP, the higher levels are just gonna fly around and drop
and slam you. Yeah, like I mean, that's even on. I mean, I know it's just on PvP servers, but that was a problem that arose because of that.
Well, you have people that play both servers, so you have to make sure that you're accommodating for both of them, right?
Druids being able to go through and fly and
pick herbs in fly mode and just fly away. Like, I mean, you basically, if you don't roll a druid, you don't farm. You get if you're not an herbalist as a druid, you just kind of get shafted. Yeah, Grif remembers those days. You fly down, pick it up, and then just fly away. It's like, oh yeah, normal person has to fly down, get off their mount, and then the druid flies right in, right next to you, grabs it, and flies away.
Where as soon as you went to, like, you clicked on something that was an actionable thing, it took you off your mount anyway. It wasn't like in Classic now where you walk up to the Flight Master and have to actively dismount before you can talk to him to go anywhere.
Yeah, but that was the difference. It would dismount you, but for druids, it would just unshapeshift you, like automatically. You now for minings, I have to get off my mount and then mine it. For druids, it just takes you out of your shift form and then you pick it up and go.
Yeah, but that's a simple mechanic change. I mean, because right now, what you're saying is basically you're having to do two things: one, dismount; two, do whatever it is you're going to do. So all they did in basically what you're saying is in that expansion they eliminated one of the steps to where it automatically does it, correct?
And that's a huge step for
right. So all you do is when you're remastering or whatever, it just sounds like a simple amount of code that would go in to where you can't do A without doing you can't do B without doing A first.
Right. But they changed it way later on. That's the thing, is you can't take those way later on and bring them into now.
I don't know.
That's just how the world was balanced for back then. Because druids don't need to get out of, like, in Warsong Ultra, you have to pick up the flag.
Let's not make this whole podcast about WoW.
Okay. We'll move on from there.
We're half an hour in. It's just, this is not a WoW podcast.
It can be. We did one for a little while. I know.
We're moving on now. Else we will be here all day. So
I also played DayZ. It was a lot of fun.
Played what now?
I played DayZ. It was a lot of fun.
Okay.
Not with Snitty, though. He played by himself.
No. Yes, it was a solo run. I met some random dude way out in the wilderness. He scared the shit out of me. I was like, wasn't expecting anybody out here. He's like, yeah, he didn't shoot me on sight, so that was nice. Woods. I mean, then we went our separate ways, which was nice. I mean, it was okay.
Awesome. So get into news. Is that what we're doing now?
Yeah. We'll get into news now.
We'll start with the sad stuff first. Of course, Konami Code has been something that's popular for years. Of course, Contra, other games like that had it built into it, which is the up, down, down, left, right, BA, start. Most of us know it, have it memorized. But Kazuhisa Hashimoto is the gentleman that created that, and he passed away at the age of 61 this week.
Too young.
Yeah, definitely too young. And I'm really glad that when you have people like that have been able to change the way we game and give us information that we didn't know we had. And as I was telling them earlier, if you have some type of AI, which most people do nowadays, whether it's their phone or whatever, Siri or Alexa or something like that, make sure that you do the Konami Code, because usually some reason they've all programmed them to react to it, and I think that's awesome because it's it's good homage to this guy. So
I love why he created it too. Like the arcade games were too tough, so he created the code specifically so that he could put it in at home and test his games easier.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I mean, come on, that's
how
such
cheat
a nice
codes
way to start it too. Well, he was using it to test now, not cheat. There's a difference.
But that's what we call them, cheat codes, right? But that's the reason those were started out. I mean, you've got id Software had them built into their games as well, so they could go through and play through and test the games properly. I'm sorry, test the games properly? That's weird. I mean, and make sure they're fully functional.
It's a testing code.
And do it correctly. But yeah, his legacy will live on. We all know that code. And it is, I think it's important for gamers to make sure that they, give him some type of credit in the long run and know the Hashimoto name, for sure.
I wonder how many people have that tattooed on their body somewhere.
There's a lot.
It's a popular one.
It's a really
what the
common
number
one.
on that would be.
I don't know. I mean, it's got to be astronomical. I would like it though. We call it the Konami Code. I would love it though if we would start calling it the Hashimoto Code, just out of respect to him and the fact that he created
that would be
it.
Nice. But that would be super nice. But I just do not see something like that, a cultural staple like that to change names now.
Yeah, that's true.
It would take a huge revolution to change that from the Konami Code to his.
I wonder if it would work on their pachinko machines.
Probably not.
Probably
I'm sure people
not.
have tried.
That would be quite interesting. That would be quite interesting for sure. What else we got?
Well, I mean, I guess it's sad. If you want to go with the sad news, the GDC got canceled. Well, postponed.
Yeah, postponed. Which it culminates from all the news that we started. Like last week, I think it was Sony and EA. There was two
Epic.
Last week. Epic. Sony and Epic. And we were talking. I don't know. I thought Epic was earlier this week.
Epic was this week.
Oh, Microsoft and Epic was this week. That's right.
And as the week went on, because we talked about it on the podcast, and as the week went on, we saw another one pop up, and another one pop up, and another, and another, and another, and we're just like, okay, they've got to just cancel it or move it at this point because there's like nobody going. And then as soon as we said that, not even a couple hours later, it's been postponed.
Yeah, they're hoping to be able to host it later this summer, but it's all going to depend on how things go with this virus and everything.
Yeah. These next couple of months will be telling of how bad it's going to be for conventions this summer.
Yeah.
And here's the thing is when you start looking at it, one of the things that I always research when we're doing this type of stuff is looking at population densities in the areas that they do have the virus. Population density is a big issue. It's the reason it's spreading as quickly as it is in Italy, because Italy actually has a higher population density than China and South Korea do. And so when you're putting everybody into 1 million mass, we already call things like Pax Plague, issues like there are Pax Pox, the different things that we have that's on there when we're going to these conventions. So it becomes more of an issue because now you're really condensed in one little area. So I'm glad that they decided to postpone instead of just outright canceling, which I mean, they already had a lot of money invested into it. Mm-hmm. But at least that way it shows that they're going, okay, let's see what we can do. And it might change where GDC ends up being during the summertime anyway, because they might find that it, maybe more people are available to attend, whatever it happens to be. So I'll be interested in that. There's also, it looks like, wasn't there another one that was canceled as well, or postponed as well? I want to say it was in one of these articles. Capcom. Capcom canceled some of the Street Fighter tournaments.
Oh, yep.
Yeah, they did some of that as well. So as the virus becomes more prevalent and we, once we find out more information on it, then, I think that you're going to see either more or less of this depending on how it goes, right? So
we will definitely see a lot less conventions in California for a little while, because I mean it is super dense and it is spreading mostly on the West Coast right now pretty fast. So it's.
I guess things are a little like aside from New York, East Coast is a little more spread out than West Coast.
Yeah, East Coast. Like if it hits New York, it is going to spread like wildfire in New York and probably to the
It'd be
outside
like New York,
regions
the
from
DC
there.
area, places like that I would expect it to spread.
I don't know where their areas. I know that like with San Francisco, when San Francisco decided to put a state of emergency, there was actually no cases in San Francisco at the time. But what it does allow for them to happen is if it starts to spread, it allows them to have federal funding to help prevent it, which is why that happens. But unfortunately, it puts people in panic mode when you do state of emergency for anything.
It's more like of a state of we're aware.
Now too, though.
Yeah, there are
San
2
Fran
cases
ended
there
up
now.
With 2 cases.
Yeah, they ended up with 2 cases, but they were very densely
3
populated
cases
as well.
now.
3 cases. So. Where we've had, and just to be clear, you'll see numbers that are out there where I think we're at 70 something in the United States, but
77.
Yeah, where 21 of those are actually from the United States, where the others were from the cruise line or they've traveled from somewhere else to receive it. So keep that in mind too. Don't panic when you start seeing some of the numbers that are out there, but
don't panic, but still
also,
be reasonable about it.
Be aware of the situation as an adult. Just
don't
be aware
think you're
and wash
fine,
your
but
hands.
but in the same time, but what my point is, in the same time period, you have 5 million people that have gotten the flu. So perspective wise, 20 something people versus 5 million people is a little,
But that's why it's scary, is because we spread the flu so easily, and this thing spreads easier than the flu. So, I mean, you get 5 million, you're gonna have 10 million people with this shit because people aren't like, oh, it's not the flu, so it's not to be worried about.
Or they get the opposite of the impression, which is kind of along the line of what Oak is saying, which is don't freak out because it's not as spreading like the fluid. So like, I'm fine, I don't have to worry about it. So you get that complacency issue too. Don't be complacent. Wash your hands.
Do the same thing. Everything that you would normally do for the flu. Wash your hands. And hey, gentlemen, I go to the restroom with you in public restaurants and in parks, especially parks. Please wash your fucking hands. It is not a hard concept. I know where it's been is not an excuse to, hey, not wash your damn hands. You don't know where anything else has been. And when you're drinking, it's even worse. Please, 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 please wash your hands.
And also, don't be afraid of fist bumps, man. Fist bump people, you don't have to shake hands. You can just fist bump. You don't got to worry about either spreading the flu or if this is in your area, spreading this either. Just fist bump.
Take the complete
elbow up, shoes.
Elbow up.
Just bump shoes. Just
don't touch me.
There you go. Bump shoes. Yes, please make that a thing.
That's what they're doing in China. They do not touch it. They do not touch it all anymore. They just bump shoes. Because, I mean, it already spread pretty bad there, so just be aware, watch the situation, don't panic. Just, if you're in a zone where it is, just wash your damn hands and try not to get all contacty with people right now. And if you're in a
densely populated area, invest in some masks. Not a big deal.
Especially if germs and stuff like that freak you out anyway, do that. At least a peace of mind is better sometimes than anything else.
As stuff gets busier at my work, because we're getting to the point where it gets busy, once we have a certain number of people coming in, I will probably wear masks to work because I am also pregnant and I can't risk it.
Yeah, I'd prefer you to not get the flu.
Yeah, I don't want anything. Like, you will not
but
believe
at least
the
she's
amount
had the
of people
flu
that will
shot,
go to the
so
store while they're sick.
she's less likely. Right?
Yeah, very true. Less likely.
Because, flu shot, folks.
I'm work sick today, so let me get all these errands that I wanted to run. No, don't come to me while you're sick. Why do you do this?
Yeah, I don't understand. Like, if you are sick, stay home.
Yes,
or
please go home.
Like, especially two things.
Definitely go
home. Don't go out in public. Don't go out in public to like a large department store, whatever. Don't do that. The only public thing you should be going to is the doctor's office. And secondly, don't go to fucking work. Don't go to work and spread it to everyone else that's there.
Well, see,
but they want to play Plague Inc. the real life.
They do. But that's the thing. That was my sister has the flu right now, and it's because somebody came to work with a fever. They were running like 104 fever and came to work anyway because they didn't want to call in. These people work in a bakery. They sell food. You're sick. You're gonna contaminate everybody. You're the problem. Go home.
I'm gonna tell you now. If I have a fever, I ain't going into work. Hell no. Nope. I mean,
you're just being
I can barely
to your
do what I do.
At that point, you're like, I am dying. Please catch some of my dying. No, if I'm running a fever, I'm gonna be like, I can't make it today.
If I'm going out, I'm taking y'all with me.
Baka, you ain't even coming to our house to see a baby, so I don't want to hear it.
I'll wait outside with the flu shot. Be like, you want to come see him? You got to come here. I ain't a registered nurse either, so this shit's gonna hurt.
Yeah.
The good thing is we're getting close to the end of flu season, so it will be interesting to see how
I've heard
COVID-19
that it's gonna, like, once it gets warm and dry, it'll probably start to have an upturn as far as less cases and things like that. But that's just a theory, so
Well,
fingers
it's
crossed.
humid around here, and it's in water vapor, so it's gonna be even worse for the southern area
yeah.
if it makes it down here.
I guess that's true.
So you got to be careful because that humidity is gonna just make it float in the air.
And a lot of people are like, why are people talking about this on a gaming website or gaming podcast? Because we're obviously not the only ones that are talking about it. It's because it's affecting us. We just canceled GDC. Now there's a question about how this will affect E3, although I'm with some of the comments in that article. I think E3 has other attendance numbers to worry about than just the virus, but it's because it is affecting the things that we talk about, and
because cons are a big thing in our world.
Yes,
like,
it's
in
where
the
we get
gaming
a lot
world,
of info and see a lot of cool stuff.
Exactly, and having them canceled or having people pull out of cons is a big deal. Like Sony didn't go to PAX East, which was a huge deal. So I mean, and then GDC got moved.
That's a new word.
Moved.
Well, and that's the thing too is, and keep in mind when you're looking at PAX East, you've got about anywhere from 80 to 100,000 because they don't keep track of however actual many people are there because that's stupid. But anyway, 80 to 100,000 people is usually where that lies at. So that's a lot of people concentrated in one area. But to give you an idea, Gamescom, is it Gamescom that's in Europe, right?
Yeah, Gamescom.
That one's 300,000 people in one area. So you're dealing with an entire town in one concentrated area. And if you've never seen that escalator shot that everybody posts where they're coming up and down the escalators and like you can't see the escalator at all, the handrails or anything, it's
think
ridiculous.
About how many hands have touched that handrail. Go wash your
Right?
hands right now.
So
I'd wear gloves at something like that, but like, fuck that shit.
And here's the thing, and I know it happened in West when I was there last time, and I'm assuming it's even more prevalent now. What's one of the things that we're doing when we're touching keyboards, we're touching mice, we're touching controllers and everything else. So some of those booths literally have some of the hand sanitizer there for you to use it before you even play it. So they're making sure that people are not going to get whatever element they're going to get out of it.
I wish somebody would stand there and then, like, as they come in to play the games, be like, sanitize. Like, sanitize your hand before you're allowed to play. Yeah, like it's a requirement.
That's what they did. That's what they did at a few of the booths in West this past year. I'm sure it's more prevalent this time.
Yes, absolutely. Like I went to Home Depot the other day, and there was at the counter there was a big old tub of hand sanitizer right there next to her. She's like, "All right, cool, thank you." And then as soon as we were done, she's like, "All right,
yep,
let's move on to the next." It's like, yes, be safe, man. Flu
I'll
is bad. Nobody needs that.
Office.
Yes,
it's probably not a bad idea.
Yeah,
probably not a bad idea. All right. So on this same subject, ish, because of the spread of the coronavirus, everybody's leery what's going on. But of course, we know that the epicenter for this happened to start in China. We don't know if this is related or not, but the game Plague Inc., which has been out for about 8 years, has been taken off the App Store there as for illegal content. Is what it put down.
It's because it came out before specific licensing was in place, and they didn't have the licensing, so they kind of, I guess, got grandfathered in, and then they're like, wait, this is totally not a coincidence.
First of all, if you think that this doesn't have anything to do with the coronavirus, you're lying to yourself.
This definitely smacks of Chinese, government control.
Censorship.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because they do have, I mean, that's not propaganda, that's true. They have a very strict stranglehold on all of the things that their people are allowed to view.
Yes,
it's just one of them that they didn't want them to look at anymore.
Right. So,
no more playing a game about spreading disease.
You think people will hold on to their phones like they did when they took away Flappy Bird, but it'll just be like an Inside China thing where they're like, I've got an iPhone with Plague.
They got an underground phone. Yeah. You want some Plague? Kind of Plague. I don't want the corona. No. This is phone Plague. Oh, yeah. That's a phone Plague.
Well, it's like when the virus was first hit out or whatever. If you looked on Netflix or Amazon, either one of them, the trending stuff that was on there was like Pandemic and a bunch of other movies that were about that time. I was like, you all are sick.
This is how I learned how it spreads.
Y'all are sick, man. Like, really? Come on.
Don't shit on those movies. That's obviously sensationalized.
Which is probably part of the reason people get in panic mode as much as they do. I saw it on a movie once.
Things, and then, the next step is obviously the zombie apocalypse, so...
Hey, to be fair, this looks a lot like the zombie apocalypse story.
Speaking of this, we were watching a show. We were watching Lost and catching up and whatnot. And one of the parts, it has to do with time travel and all this. The show is old, so get over it. And it has to do with time travel. So this show has people quoting movies about the rules of time travel, and it's like, that's not how it works. This is real life, and it's like, something doesn't fit here. It's a show complaining about time travel rules from movies, but it's a show. I think we're stuck in a loop here. The rules from movies don't apply to real life.
None of this applies.
Yeah, well, you're just a game.
Some of it is actual quantum theory that is used in those type of things, but what's frustrating on that is not setting up rules to start with, right?
Yeah.
With inside your own universe.
Yes, it's hilarious. I found it very funny since we were talking about it.
Too funny.
Want to talk about refunds or lawsuits?
Well, the refund one is a little shorter. The refund one is a little shorter.
Okay.
So GOG believes in their gamer first approach, and their latest update to their voluntary refund policy, which came to a surprise to some developers. Apparently, most of them. You can get a full refund up to 30 days after purchasing the product, even if you download it, launched it, and played it. Cool.
30 days.
No.
I can finish a game in 30 days, and then I'll just
return
it and get another one.
And then
you could play an RPG that takes tens of hours to play and get a refund off of it.
Depending on how diligent you are. I think one of the, there's only a handful of games you probably couldn't manage if you were also working and had adult responsibilities.
Yeah, but then you just refund it and then buy it again.
Well, that's true. I mean, and I guess the idea is that they'll keep an eye on accounts and how often they're returning things, so that if somebody is constantly doing the return, they'll flag the account. But that's your policy. I mean, they're not really abusing anything. You told them they could do it.
But let's say you have the most popular game of whatever it is. Let's say I don't know, Shmoo's Adventure. We'll just put it out there, okay? So the Shmoo Adventure, day one sells 4 million copies. Okay,
and they all
so it did really well, right? Or half of it did. Yeah. But let's say it was an independent company that came up with it. And it was their only way of making money.
Yeah.
And feels bad, man.
2 million have to be refunded right off of there, and or within the first 30 days, you have 2 million that are on there because it's like, okay, I finished Shmoo. It was a fantastic game. I'm done. Let me move on to the next thing. It's gonna fuck them over. Like the advantage of having I don't mind the 30-day window. What I mind is the no limitation to hours played.
Yeah.
2 to 4 hours, fine. Anywhere in between there, that's one thing that I do like about Steam's, is because it does protect that developer and keeps this from happening. Because it's, unless you have a game that's only 2 to 4 hours long, which we were reading an article about the other day, that one developer, that's what he wants, is 2 hour long games.
Which is dumb. He wants every game to be 2 hours.
Right? So
I'm sorry.
You can't.
He said later that he meant most games for it to be 2 hours. It's like, still, most? It's too many.
It's so dumb. But it just, please protect the developers, because don't put them out of business because
shit.
And
you're trying to be the nice guy.
With GOG, that previously it was their setup was you could refund the game if you hadn't downloaded it, because their games are DRM free. So once you downloaded it, you could refund it and technically still have the game as long as you didn't uninstall it. So what's gonna stop people from being really dishonest like that?
Right? This is gonna be interesting.
I guess it's like a test of the honor system, You know, where it's like just be reasonable.
I
and
can-
buy these games and don't refund
The
them
thing that
and play
that's
them.
crazy to me is the fact that GOG is owned by CD Projekt Red, and they're a developer. They would be so mad if Steam did the same shit. and they ended
No
up suffering.
shit.
Or
Like-
Microsoft, somebody, you know, one of the stores that they're on did the same damn thing. They'd be so pissed about it because somebody goes in and they play The Witcher 3 and they beat The Witcher 3 and then they go, okay, refunds within 30 days. I'm good to go.
Yeah. And with it being GOG, they don't have time played, so they can't even tell you how long you played the game. So you could legitimately have like been off work for a month for whatever reason and done nothing but play these games and played through like for $60 played through an ungodly amount of games. You know? I feel like Steam people are upset sometimes because it's a 2-hour window. Like you can have 2 hours of playtime or 14 days. Like depending on which one you get.
But I feel like that gives you enough time
Yeah,
to
2
boot up the
hours.
game, see if it works, and then if it doesn't or you don't enjoy it, then you you toss it back.
I think 2 hours is pretty good. I wouldn't push it to any more than 4 at max.
I think 4 would be the max that you would set
But
it at.
that's because Steam has a way to track how long you've played the game, whereas GOG doesn't. So with GOG, I think maybe it's time for them to implement that technology and then give an hour on it for returns instead of not like a specific 1 hour time, but like give a number of hours so that you can get your money back instead of it being long enough to play the whole game. Because I feel like people aren't going to be honest about this a whole lot.
I don't think
No,
they
no.
are either. Like,
No.
I just
I don't trust people
like, it's going to get
anymore.
abused.
Where
It's
can
gonna-
retail, they're gonna be abuse the hell out of it.
Oh,
Yeah.
absolutely.
That
Especially
retail
like
is
just
why I don't trust people.
getting a
Well, I mean-
100% refund within a month of playing it. Yeah, I mean, or
Well,
within a
I mean,
month
for
of
any
buying it.
reason,
People-
it's not even like a stipulation that doesn't run on my hardware or something like that. It's for whatever.
People
No,
used to
I-
abuse this all the time. If you look at a large company like Walmart, one of the things that they ended up doing was changing the refund policy. And part of the reason they did was because when the PlayStation and PlayStation 2 and Xbox first, that whole start of the generations happened, people would go in, purchase PlayStation, and then they would go, there was no names taken, there was nothing that was taken, the information that was information wise, they just pay cash for it. They'd go home, they'd strip the entire box full of the stuff, fill it back with bricks to get it the exact same weight and return it and get their money back off of it. Well, until they sold it again, because they just put it back on the shelf, until they sold it again, nobody knew that the box was full of bricks. And so people were getting home and they bought bricks. And it was when those stuff was really popular. Meanwhile, somebody just got the entire system for free. So that's what you're dealing with, folks. That's what you're dealing with. If you give them an opportunity to fuck you over, guess what's going to happen? They're going to fuck you over.
Yeah.
And it might be a small percentage. I mean, you might be like 1-2%, but it's at the same time, that's a lot of money in the back end of it.
Yeah.
No, I mean, even where I'm working, we rent games, and we'll have people come in, rent the game for $8, and then cancel the debit or credit card that they have on file with us, so they can't be charged for never returning the game.
Yep.
Oh, I don't know why people just don't charge them first, and then once it goes through, they can have the game. If they don't bring it back, then oh well, you still got your $8.
Well, I mean, but that's what
that's
he's
just
saying
not
though, is
how
you get
it's
the
set up.
$8 because that's what you are charged to rent it, but they never bring the game back. So instead of buying the game for $60, they just essentially stole it for $8.
You should
Instead of-
well, the only
Instead
other
of
way that
charging
you
them
could
for
do that
60
is-
up front and then refunding 52 on the back
Yeah.
end of it, right?
Yeah, you could just hold them or put a hold for $50 on their account. I guess that'd
Yeah,
be
but
the only other
you
way
can't
to
do that
it.
because then you're getting into the banking side of it, and a lot of times that's just a thing that's going to be more hassle than it's worth.
Hey, then people won't rent and they'll just buy, right?
I don't know.
Fucking
they'll just
make it
steal,
complicated.
probably.
Exactly.
Well, but the thing
make
is, it's
them
not
make a
complicated
choice.
for the person. It's complicated for the business, though.
Well, I mean, if you still want to rent games in this business, then that's just how it is. I mean, GameFly does not have any of that bullshit. They're very simple to use. You pay your monthly thing, and they send you
GameFly
games.
also gets all of your info because they have to have an address to send it to.
Yeah, someone's gonna.
true.
You still have our game? Holy shit! I didn't know you guys were real.
I don't know.
Little bit different. You can't fake that one.
Yeah.
For sure. All right, our last article is something that we've covered a million times. I swear, it's been a million times.
Of
course, we have the-
last year, that's for sure.
Yep. Of course, Riot Games has been in a lawsuit with around 1,000 women or so about gender discrimination and other issues that they've dealt with at Riot Games. And I think we covered the fact that they were supposed to be doing a $10 million settlement, which ended up being about 10,000 per person. Well, it turns out that it is a possibility that Riot and the legal team for the women colluded together. So now the women have a new legal team and are going to seek, instead of 10 million, $400 million dollars at the end of the day for Riot. So this is not over for Riot at all. Thoughts on this one? I think we all know where we stand when it comes to the women's side of it, but thoughts when it comes to the actual process of this. Anybody?
So I was reading.
Underhanded lawyers are underhanded.
Well,
Yeah, I was reading the comments down below. Is just we have acknowledged that there's work to do that there is work that we needed to do to better live up to our values. It's the most generic, whitewashed response from any company ever. It's like, oh yeah, we did something bad, we're gonna work. It's like that's absolute bullshit. Why don't you be like, hey, we're trying to actually fix our problems. There are problems here. We understand that. We know who they are. We're fixing it. Instead of, hey, we know we're working on it. Okay.
Everybody's
Okay,
always
but,
working on it. Nobody ever wants to say they did something wrong.
Exactly. But I will say that if it is found that they did collude with the prosecutors, that
That's a whole
Riot is
new
going
problem.
to be in some shit, and I guarantee those attorneys will be disbarred because that is crossing a pretty bad legal line.
Yeah, that's some real shady territory right there, and
It's just
it seems sloppy
theory
too, though. Like, did you think that the ladies were just gonna be like, yeah, okay, I guess we're too dumb to realize, so sure, we'll take this. Like,
I find it interesting that's on there. Like, I want to see, as this increases, what we consider to be the collusion that they had that was in there. Because when you're colluding with someone else, there's a difference between the settlement part of it and the colluding part of it. But it is where if you go in and you're in a lawsuit and somebody's trying to settle, the lawyer, if they offer something, as the lawyer, you have to tell your client what they offered. So then it's up to them to choose one direction or the other. But it is one of those things where they come back and say, well, should we take more? Should we get that? And it is a possibility that they went, I don't think we can get more out of that. And they're considering that's colluding, or they've found paperwork somewhere, which is what I'm hoping, because it was actually the California state agency that came through and said that we found collusion. So I'm thinking there's paperwork that's involved with this that they're considering to be collusion, which I'm looking at a double lawsuit right here. I think you're going to have the $400 million lawsuit that's still going against Riot Games. And I think that you're going to end up with a lawsuit against their original legal team, which will create an opportunity for them to be disbarred if that happens. So it's going to be very interesting to see at the end of the day. But the thing is too, did they find a money paper trail?
So you sort of want to go, all right, well, here you go. Here's your $10 million. We'll pay you $5 to convince your people that this is the best way to do it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, California would basically bring up a case against the attorneys, and then they would bring up a case against Riot, and Riot does not want the state of California to sue them. Right. They would just get fucked at that
and
point.
I'm very interested too, because I'm assuming that they have any large corporation like this is going to have lawyers on retainer. So I'm interested to see if the lawyers that Riot has on retainer, if what ends up happening prosecution wise with them, because that's another lawsuit is a possibility too. You might look at a third lawsuit, because it could be to where Riot could claim they had no idea any of that was happening. It was just their lawyers that were involved with it. In either way, the women could end up suing Riot, their lawyers, and Riot's lawyers. So it's like, you could be looking at a $500 million payout by the end of it.
Yeah, because if Riot wasn't using their best lawyers to help deal with this, then they're going to be like, well, you weren't giving us the time. Again, more sexism. Boom. Now you're in trouble again.
It's like, yeah.
It's like, yeah, we're digging ourselves out of this hole. Wait, where'd that other hole? Oh, shit, there are too many holes around me now. Uh-oh. It's like, yeah, you keep digging more holes. Yeah, you got out of this one, but then you got another one over here. And they're owned by Tencent, like 100% a Chinese-owned company, too. And they've Tencent's got a lot of money, so... if they fail this, Tencent is going to tear them apart because they are one of their biggest corporations, and getting this kind of lawsuit and getting in trouble and doing it wrong. Oh god.
All of these ands.
Yeah.
I wonder if they had anything to do with it.
They might have. I mean, I don't like Tencent. I would not put it past their shady ass to try to do something like this. So, but we'll see as this story develops again, because this was this time last year when the article first came out, and we watched it develop as the year went on. Let's just do it again, I guess. Hit that replay button. Let's go.
It's like one thing after another on this one. Like we've been doing this for 2 years, because wasn't it January 2018 or some shit like that? When it came out?
Yeah. It was 2 years ago.
Yeah. So it's like, and then last year was all the information on it, and then this year we're dealing with more stuff like it. Oh wait, I'm sorry, did you think it was gone in 2019? Nope.
Oh man,
we've got new stuff for you. So we did the math for everybody that was kind of wondering on that one. So if you don't want to do the math yourself, if the payout ends up being 400 million, they're going to go from a 10,000 each payout to a $400,000 payout for each one before the lawyer fees, of course. If I had to guess, though, the lawyers would make $40 million off this by themselves.
Oh, they'd be fine with that.
Yeah, yeah. So it's, I mean, I don't know how much the women were paying or whatever, but they are using, according to the new law firm, they are using very qualified statisticians that are already analyzing the pay data to make sure that the women, to figure out what the difference was between the women and the men that were in the same level. I think it's going to be very hard to prove that some of these women needed to be that were turned down because they were women for promotion, unless there was some type of paper trail that goes along with that too. So I don't think that they can necessarily cover that. But with 1,000 people, that's a lot of people to deal with for sure.
I mean, short of a female who was working there for 2 years in the position, and then a guy who gets hired for 2 months and then promoted over her, that you could kind of create a correlation that, because then you would just hire the guy in the higher position. If they have the same exact background and status, or she's more qualified and things like that, and then he gets hired in a couple months and then he's automatically promoted. Like,
right.
It's going to take a lot of work and paperwork to prove a lot of this. This and that.
Because you would have to go through the time served too. So let's use your example for instance. Let's say that the gentleman he was there 50 hours a week, busting his ass, doing everything that needed to be done, and she was calling in sick, wasn't there as often, that type of thing. That's different. What we're talking about is they're both working 50 hours a week. She'd been there 2 years, and then let's say they both went to whatever the best gaming development company college there is. I don't know. I couldn't tell you. They both went to San Diego State. I don't know. But let's say that they both have the same exact educational background and everything. If all those things pan out and it shows that he went up, then yes, I could see that being slided and doing that. But the problem is when you're with a class action lawsuit, you're saying that every single person that's there is going to get paid the same amount of money. So it's not a percentage thing. Just because that happened to one doesn't mean that person gets more than the other person. You're saying I'm willing to take the $400,000 and allow everybody else to have $400,000. And at the end of the day, if you got $400,000 more in your pocket, I don't think you're going to really bitch anyway. So,
well, I don't know. If you live in California, that's like a total of $4. You might be able to get lunch with it.
That's $4 California dollars.
You can buy a house in a bad neighborhood. Come on.
House in a bad neighborhood.
I'm gonna go buy a crack house. I'm so excited.
Up in the Beverly Hills. Crack house.
Hey, but at least you own the home.
Yeah.
Until it gets burned
Until
down
you die, in which case the next person owns a home. Just have a good life insurance policy when you're done.
There you go.
Yeah.
Positive thinking. Oh, too funny. Anything else anybody wants to share before we get out of here?
Nope, I think that's it.
As always, we appreciate everybody that hangs out with us at Infinite Respawn. You can check us out on Twitter at InfiniteResPC. You can check me out personally at MDB Oaktree. Check out Grif.
At Grif Slanum.
Check out Chicken.
Idly Chicken 313.
Check out Baka.
Baka Pickle.
Also, make sure that you go to Grif's YouTube channel, where she's currently playing through Red Dead Redemption 2's epilogue.
Yep. Very slowly.
You know,
we're gonna get there.
You got like another year, and she'll be finished with it. I think.
Yeah, it'll probably be another couple of weeks. So.
Another couple weeks. Woo woo.
Yeah.
And then she gets to figure out what she's playing from there.
I have no idea.
She'll figure it out. Maybe something shorter.
Maybe it depends on whether or not we're doing renovations yet. Because it may be nothing for a little while.
Good point on that one. Also, make sure you go to twitch.tv/EliteChicken313. Chicken, what you get this week?
More Sekiro, but I'm not streaming Monday. Well, you will have known because that is the day you will be seeing this.
Monday?
So,
Tuesday? What about Tuesday? Well, we'll talk about it.
Tuesday? What's Tuesday?
Tuesday
oh,
is
yeah.
doctor's appointments and stuff.
Yeah, maybe not Tuesday either. Man, like I've told you already, everybody, that this next year is going to be a little bit more chaotic, that I'm going to have to, take days off and whatnot. But I got a project that started
to Parenthood, my friend.
Saturday, and I didn't get it done because more shit popped up, but you know how that is. And then we're going to finish it Monday, so, just keep an eye on the Discord. I usually keep everybody up to date a day of. So
yeah, please make sure you're following him on. Well, he doesn't post out on his Twitter as much as he should.
What's Twitter?
Yeah, so make sure that you go on the Discord. The link is down below. Also, make sure you go to mixer.com/MDBOaktree, where I stream almost every day, usually around 9 p.m. Eastern. This week, of course, more Kakarot, Stranded Deep, and Sea of Thieves. So I want to get my fishies. I got to get my fishy on. More fishy.
Fishy.
For Infinite Respawn, I'm Oaktree.
I'm Grif.
I'm Chicken.
I'm Baka.
Bye.
See ya.
Bye.
Please hang up and try again.